China's strengths, for example, in electric vehicles are formidable. They're undeniable. These are the most affordable and energy efficient and innovative vehicles in the world. And for Canada to build our own competitive EV sector, we need to learn from, partner with, and access and build supply chains with China. To help deliver on the full potential of these partnerships and to bring down costs for Canadians, we're going to start by allowing up to 49,000 Chinese electric vehicles into the Canadian market at the most favored nation tariff rate, which is 6.1%.
So car companies like Xiao Mi are now going to enter Canada's EV market. What do you think that looks like for Tesla? Yo, next year, or this year, 49,000 EVs. Let me tell you, those 49,000 EVs, when they get in here, they're going to get so much great reviews that the rest of Canadians are going to say, nah, we need more. Elon Musk is done for. Canada put 100% tariffs on electric vehicles from China because of America. China has been America's bootlegger for so long that Canada has been America's bootlegger for so long that now everyone is distancing themselves from America. Eventually, everyone will abandon the dollar. And I think this is on purpose, right? Because you can see America's shift towards tokenization. But if they abandon the dollar, the rest of us that do... Because I saw something. I'll find it. I'll make a video about it where Elon Musk was saying, anyone who's saving for the next 10, 20 years, you're just wasting your time. And I'm like, that's got to be the most accurate threat I ever heard, because they know, what are you saving for? That world you're saving for is not going to be there. They have a plan. But anyways, Canada has now removed 100% tariffs. It is now 6.1. So Americans, I'm pretty sure, can buy Canadian cars now. Oh, Americans can buy cars in Canada and drive that. It's over.
One side recommendation I have is don't worry about squirreling money away for retirement in 10 or 20 years. It won't matter.
Either we're not going to be here, or
you won't need to save for retirement. If any of the things that we've said are true, saving for retirement will be irrelevant.
The services will be there to support you. You'll have the home, you'll have the healthcare, you'll have the entertainment.
Let's put this in context. 49,000 vehicles, which is the cap on Chinese electric vehicle exports to Canada. That's part of this agreement. That's a return to levels last seen in 2023, the last full year before the Canadian tariff actions. That's the first point. Second point, again, to dimension it, that's less than 3% of the size of the Canadian auto market. The third point, to put in context, and I reference this, is that part of this agreement, and it takes a few years to build this, a couple of years to build this, that an increasing portion of those exports will be in a new segment of the Canadian market. In other words, electric vehicles that cost less than $35,000 at the landed price. So there's huge opportunity here to get more affordable cars in the electric vehicle market for Canada. The fourth element, and in many respects the most important element, is the beginning of discussions and expectation of Chinese investment in Canada and partnership in Canada to produce vehicles over time, so to partner with Canadian firms. And putting all this, and if I can take the last part of your question, then move to colleagues, which is vis-a-vis the U.S., I think we need to look at this in the context of building. I mean, we're building a new part of our car industry, building cars of the future in partnership, bringing affordable autos for Canadians at a time when affordability is top of mind, and doing it at a scale that allows for a smooth transition in the sector. Thanks.
Next question, Steve.
Good morning. Good morning.
There are a number of specific issues, and I've outlined them where we've made progress in our strategic partnership. But we spent a fair bit of time in all of those meetings about the guardrails, if you will, of the relationship. where we felt we could cooperate, where we had differences of opinion, where we had differences of view in the system, respecting each other's differences in the system. And that sort of candid and consistent dialogue, frank dialogue, that leads to a more predictable and effective relationship. Our relationship, the one comparison I will give you with the United States, our relationship, this is no insight, is much more multifaceted, much deeper, much broader than it is with China. But yes, in terms of the way that our relationship has progressed in recent months with China, it is more predictable, and you see results coming from it.
Tesla is having such a bad week that I don't even really know where to begin, but we can start with the fact that Bloomberg has released a report talking about how 15 different people have lost their lives since 2024 because of the electronic door handles in Teslas. The problem is that emergency responders can't open the door from the outside when the vehicle loses power. There's a manual release on the inside, but that doesn't help rescue workers from the outside, and it slows them down because they have to bash in the window while the car is on fire. Cars having manual door handles was such an obvious thing to do that they didn't even make safety regulations around it, because that's just what everyone did, because of course that's what you're supposed to do. Next up, the F-150 Lightning outsold the Cybertruck, and they just canceled the F-150 Lightning for not selling enough. Then final sales data from Tesla came in for Europe for 2025, and they're down 27.8% in a year where EV sales are up. Next up, Elon announced that full self-driving is moving to a subscription-only model, and Elon once said that full self-driving was an appreciating asset, and that's why you should spend $8,000 to $10,000 on it. We'll just add that to Elon's very big book of false promises.
I don't like talking about the competition so much, but I drive the Xiao Mi. We flew one from Shanghai to Chicago, and I've been driving it for 6 months now, and I don't want to give it up.
You stole my next question.
Yeah.
China is making very inexpensive EVs.
They are.
And has better infrastructure for charging.
Yes. And all the trillions of profitability that were taken out of China by the Western OEMs, they were busy thinking about their industry strategically. And they bet on electrification about 10 years ago. And now they make 70% of all electric vehicles in the world are made in one country. They own all the battery processing. You want graphite, you want lithium processed to put in a battery, automotive battery, a nickel, you need to go to China. So they have unique battery chemistry like LFP, iron phosphate, which is half the cost, has no fire risk, and can be charged twice as many cycles. So there's unique IP in China now. And many of the companies are sponsored by the government. So we as a company face a kind of ultimate fitness test on this question of making money on EVs. If we cannot make money on EVs, we have competitors who have the largest market in the world, who already dominate globally, who are already setting up their supply chain around the world, and if we don't make profitable EVs next 5 years, what's the future? We just shrink into North America.
So to talk a little bit more about competition with China, how do you see the Biden administration's tariffs on EVs impacting the Chinese government and how they approach you and Ford and also other automakers?
Yes. Well, I think it's the answer to that question is very different for each auto company. We do not have a big China business. GM has a huge one. Volkswagen has enormous. I think 60% of Volkswagen's global profit comes from China. So every company has a different exposure. Look, I think the tariffs and the policy decisions that the president has to make quickly will level the playing field. The state subsidies of free taxes, free land, a lot of R&D, we don't have the benefit from. The IRA really does help. It incentivizes us for making automotive batteries in the US. We made many decisions to actually make in the US now because of the IRA. But the biggest issue is those are going to be speed bumps. I worked at Toyota for 25 years as an American. I mean, we have NAFTA. They're 25% of the Mexican market already, the Chinese. We can all drive to Mexico one day. 1 out of every 4 vehicles sold in Mexico is made by a Chinese company. And they will have enough scale in China to build plants there and export tariff-free to the US. That's only a matter of time.
This is a story about how the world's most powerful, richest country is slowly losing its influence.
And it's evident here.
We can see across Brazil, thousands of Ford cars almost disappeared.
Meanwhile, China's BYD is becoming increasingly common. It's evidence of the growing connection between Brazil and China, the B and the C of the BRICS Plus coalition. This is a group that hopes to rival the US-led G7.
Over time, more countries started expressing interest in joining BRICS. So now there are 10 countries.
10 countries equals economic power. Look at how the original BRICS have grown compared to the G7 in terms of global GDP since 2009. It surpassed the G7 in 2019. Now add in the expanded lineup, and its share is nearly 40%.
The trajectory is clear. BRICS countries are growing faster.
This mantra,
America first,
has created an opening.
The trade war increased the solidarity between BRICS nations.
They want a multipolar world in which there are multiple centers of geopolitical influence.
But can these countries unite to become a meaningful global force?
It's very effective as a symbolic grouping, but how that evolves is probably going to depend to some degree how on all their individual economies do, how they perceive the US is moving economically and politically, and how seriously they themselves want to move on big global issues.
Let's jump right in. I want to begin by talking about something I've occasionally brushed up against in these programs, but many of you have asked me to go into in some more detail. And it's nothing short of the death of libertarianism. Libertarianism has been a way of thinking now, quite powerful, quite dominant in the United States for a good bit of the last 40 to 50 years. In other words, most of the lifetime of most of you. And here's basically what this idea was, that an economy like ours, a capitalist, free enterprise economy, works best if the government stays out of it. Once upon a time, this was called, when the French embraced it, laissez-faire. That means, in French, let it be. The government should let the economy be. Don't interfere. Don't make rules and regulations. Stay out of it. That the economy works best if individuals negotiate with one another, buying and selling, including selling their ability to work to an employer who buys it by paying them a wage, etc., etc. The economy will work best that way. Don't interfere. Don't interfere inside each country, and don't interfere internationally. Internationally, it had a kind of a sister name, if you like, called neoliberalism, or sometimes just globalization. But it was the same libertarian idea that capitalism is a wonderful system that works best if the government doesn't interfere in it. Now, for most of the last half century or longer, the chief beneficiary of all of this was the United States. And for no mystery reason, because the United States came out of World War II much richer, much more powerful than anybody else. That's why the dollar became the global currency. The United States produced a share of global output far larger than its share of global population. Wealth was concentrated here. The gold of the world was stored in Fort Knox here, not somewhere else, etc., etc. The United States was dominant. Nobody could compete with it. And so a free world, free for economic power to do its thing, was very advantageous to the United States because they had more dollars to play with than anybody else could even imagine. All of that is over. All of that is dead. The United States is no longer the dominant player. This hasn't been told to the American people because no politician wants to have the task of bringing that message. So the politicians evade it, avoid it, deny it, but I'm not a politician. I don't have to. And you would like to know what's really going on, or at least I'm going to assume that you would. So we're not in that position. And how do you know it? Because libertarianism, this whole idea of the government unnecessary, keep the government out, that is completely dead. And no one has played the role of burial assistant more than Mr. Trump. Let's take a look. Mr. Trump got up a few weeks ago and said, I am hitting every country on earth with a tariff. I am intervening. I'm shaping the market. I'm saying you can't just come here and sell your goods to an American the way you used to, negotiating with the American company or the American consumer how much you pay for how much you get. No. That's over. I'm telling you, you want to sell here, you got to give a tax to me, Uncle Sam, right here in Washington. I don't care where you come from. I don't care what you produce. I don't care what the Americans do who buy your stuff. You want to sell here, you got to deal with the government. That's the opposite of libertarianism. Then he started giving money, actually following Mr. Biden, who did it also, giving money to selected corporations in the microchip business or in the solar panel business in order to shape their ability to compete with the Chinese. Oh, my goodness. You're intervening directly. Then we started sanctions. Mr. Biden was good at that, too. So this is kind of a bipartisan burial party for libertarianism. We need the government, it turns out. How do I know? Because the president tells us that. National security requires that I'm going to take, what? The Panama Canal away from the people who own it now. I'm not going to buy it. I'm not going to discuss it. I'm going to take it. The government's going to come in there, and I'm going to take Greenland, and I might make Canada the 51st state. This is massive government intervention, often justified by we need it. The economy is in trouble and will be fixed by doing this, or national security. I'm not so interested in the reasons. We had national security problems before when we celebrated neoliberalism. We had economic problems before when we celebrated neoliberalism. The problems aren't new or different. It's the answer that is. And why? I'm afraid that answer is pretty obvious, too. For the first time in a century, the United States has a major economic competitor, the People's Republic of China. This is not an endorsement of the Chinese. This is not a statement that they don't have economic problems. They do. Everybody does. I'm talking about the fact that if you add up the output of goods and services per year, which is called the GDP, gross domestic product, and it's a statistic we keep for every country on earth, it's a rough measure of their economic footprint, how big, how important they are. At the end of World War II, the United States dominated everybody. The GDP here outranked that of all the other major countries, all of whom had been destroyed by the war. Britain, France, Germany, Italy, Russia, Japan, all of them, China too. But today is a completely different landscape. China and its allies, known as the BRICS, together account for more than 35% of the total output of the world. The United States and its allies, called the G7, they account for about 27%, not even close. China is the bigger, richer economic power. That's the reality. And when you add to that China and the BRICS have more than half the people on Earth population in their countries, whereas the United States is 330 million, comes out to 4.5% of the world's people, 50 to 60% over there, 4.5% here. Stop. We're not the powerhouse we were. And Mr. Trump is here to tell us we're going to use the state every which way. Are we going to allow freedom of people to move around the earth as best they can, looking for jobs? No. We may have become a powerful country by letting tens of millions come here, urging them to come here. That may be our history, but the world has changed, and Mr. Trump recognizes it. You don't have to behave the way he does to do that, but he has recognized it. So there's no more free movement of human beings. We are deporting people. People who've worked here for 20 years, who've paid their taxes dutifully, who've never had a crime attached to them, are being deported. We didn't used to do that, or at least most of the time we didn't. We do now. We're tariffing everybody. We're sanctioning. The number one sanctioning country in the world is the United States. We go after people's property. We take it from them. We took $300 billion from Russia and froze it and won't let them get at it as part of the Ukraine war dealings. These are remarkable things. It's the end of neoliberalism. We are now in a world of economic nationalism. And it better be understood because it is the justification for everything Mr. Trump is doing and increasingly for what the Democrats say. And if we're going to be critical of their policies and where they lead, one of the things we have to take into account is the neoliberal libertarian ideology that is no longer the justification. The only place you see it is in Mr. Musk, when he fires large numbers of federal employees. He restates the old libertarian mantra, we don't want government where it's more efficient if the private sector. Nobody believes that anymore, Mr. Musk. And that, like everything else you do, is turning around to undercut your wealth, your Tesla corporation, and your reputation. It was in the cards all along. The only other update in our first half that I have time for has to do with the corporatization of American universities. Mr. Trump is going after, particularly the elite ones. And he's saying, I'm not going to give you money the way the government has been giving you money because I don't like the ideology you put out. You make liberals, you make Democrats. We aren't liberals, we aren't Democrats. We want Republicans and conservatives. And if you don't adjust your courses, your faculty, your programs, we're not giving you government money. Well, in a way, the corporations who are screaming bloody murder, and the universities, rather, they really have themselves to blame. Once upon a time, those places, and let me admit, I'm a graduate of Harvard and Stanford and Yale. Those are the schools I went to. Those are the schools in the crosshairs of Mr. Trump's cutbacks. They could have been universities. They were the way they mostly were when I went to school there. But they decided to become bigger and richer and to do many things other than educate. So they got into bed with corporations to partner, and they got into bed with the government to partner, and they took a lot of money to grow rich and be big corporations, and now they're paying the price. They should have stayed independent, committed to the education, which was their beginning. And if they don't learn that lesson, we're going to see much more government control of universities than we're already seeing attempted now.